How's it going? Friday, January 27th, 2023. Baseball matchups, pitchers. Nolan Ryan versus Randy Johnson. Who's greater? Dominant pitchers, both in the Hall of Fame. 12 categories. Let's match them up. Career wins, innings, strikeouts, complete games, games started in a season, career shutouts in a season, career ERA, most wins in a season, most innings in a season, most strikeouts in a season, best ERA in a season, saves, and winning percentage. Let's match these two guys up. Who's greater and who do you pick? Career wins. Nolan Ryan, 324. Randy Johnson, 303. Career innings. Nolan Ryan, 5,386. Randy Johnson, 4,135. That's a difference of 1,200 more innings for Ryan. Strikeouts. Ryan, 5,714. Incredible. Randy Johnson, 4,875. Difference of 900 strikeouts. Complete games. Ryan, 222. Johnson, 100. Games started. Johnson, 603. Ryan, 773. Games started in a season. Johnson, 35. The most he had was 35 starts. Ryan, 41. So far, Ryan's winning all the categories. Shutouts. Johnson, 37 career. Nolan Ryan, 61. Shutouts in a season. Johnson, 6. Ryan had 9 1 year. ERA. Johnson, career, 3.29. Nolan Ryan, 3.19. Most wins in a season. Johnson had 24 1 year. Ryan, the most he had was 22. That's the first category that Johnson's won. Innings in a season, the most. 271 for Johnson. 332 for Ryan, so he wins there, Ryan. Strikeouts. Randy Johnson, 372, but Ryan holds the record, 383 in 1 year. Best ERA in a season, 1.28 for Johnson. That was his best. Ryan, 1.69. So Johnson, he wins his second category. Saves, career. Johnson only had 2. Ryan had 3. Winning percentage, this is interesting. Johnson, 646. Ryan, 526. So if you add it up, actually 15 categories. I said 12, it's 15. Ryan wins 12 categories. Johnson wins 3. Ryan won in career wins, innings, strikeouts, complete games, games started in a season, shutouts career, shutouts in a season, ERA career, most innings in a season, most strikeouts in a season, and more saves. Johnson, he won in the category of most wins in a season, best ERA in a season, and the winning percentage. Let's look at this. Determining who's greater. Let's look at this. Nolan Ryan pitched 7 no-hitters. We know that, right? And he played 27 years. Randy Johnson has 2 no-hitters. He pitched 22 years. So Ryan has 5 more years. That's why he has more wins, strikeouts, innings, because he played 5 more years. Something I didn't mention. Ryan had the 7 no-hitters. He had a lot of one-hitters too. Johnson, 2 no-hitters. But with Randy Johnson, one of those no-hitters was a perfect game. How about that? Where Ryan never had a perfect game. So that's something to consider. Here's something else we got to consider. If we want to say who's greater. As far as games started, Nolan Ryan had 773, where Johnson had 603. That's a difference of 160, actually 170 games more for Ryan. If Randy Johnson pitches another 170 games, would he have more wins, innings, and strikeouts than Nolan Ryan? If he has the same number of games started as Nolan Ryan. Have you thought about that? I have. 170 games. How many you think he would have won? Randy Johnson. If he pitched in 170 more games. Well, let's look at it this way. He won 303 out of 600 he pitched. So that's half, right? 603 and he wins 303. That's half. So if Johnson pitches 170 games more to match the same number as Nolan Ryan, what's half of 170? Divided by 2 is 85 wins. Johnson has 303 wins plus 85. Johnson would have had 388 wins if he pitches the same number of games. And we presuppose that he wins half of them. How about that? How about strikeouts? Or how about innings? Nolan Ryan had 5,386. Johnson, 4,135. That's a difference of about 1,200 more innings. So if he's pitching, let's say 170 more games, right? And he averages maybe 7 innings. 170 times 7, that's 1,190. You know what? In innings pitch, they'd probably be about the same. Strikeouts, this is interesting. Ryan had 5,714. Johnson, 4,875. That's a difference of 900. If Johnson pitches 170 more games, and let's say he gets seven strikeouts, 8 strikeouts out of those 170. I'm doing 7, which is a low number. That's another 1,200 more strikeouts. Add 4,875 plus 1,200. Randy Johnson would have had over 6,000 strikeouts. He would have beat Nolan Ryan if he pitches the same number of games as Ryan. What do you think of that? Is that fair? I think it is. So Johnson, match him up with Nolan Ryan, and they pitch exactly the same number of games. Johnson would have more victories and more strikeouts. How about that? I never considered that. Have you? Here's another stat I'm looking at here. I've got Nolan Ryan up here. Did you know that Nolan Ryan lost 292 games? That's too many losses. How many did Randy Johnson lose? He lost 166. So let's say Johnson, he pitches 170 more games, right? And he loses half of them. That's 85. 166 plus 85. He'd have about 250 losses if he lost half of those games. That's less than Nolan Ryan because Ryan lost 292. What do you think of that stat? How about this? Walks. Nolan Ryan had 2,795 walks he issued. Oh, that's a lot of walks. How about Randy Johnson? 1,497 walks. Nolan Ryan had 1,300 more walks issued than Randy Johnson. Again, 170 more games for Johnson. How many more walks? Let's say he walks 3 or 4 a game out of those 170. Let's say 3. That's 500 more walks. He would have had about 2,000 walks. That is less than Nolan Ryan's 2,795 walks. I don't know. Who's greater, Randy Johnson or Nolan Ryan? Here's another stat. Hits allowed. Nolan Ryan gave up 3,923 hits. Randy Johnson gave up 3,346. What's the difference there? A difference of 500 hits. 170 more games for Johnson. How many more hits does he give up? 5 a game? 850? You know what? Randy Johnson would have gave up more hits than Nolan Ryan if he pitched the same number of games. So Ryan's a little bit more dominant with more strikeouts and less hits given up than Randy Johnson, even though Johnson would have beat him in wins, innings, and strikeouts. Didn't consider that. Ryan would have gave up more walks than Johnson. So these guys are both dominant. What's the other thing we can look at? How about hit by the pitch? How many batters did they hit? Nolan Ryan hit, let's see, here it is. 158 batters. Randy Johnson hit 190. Even though Ryan pitched more games, he didn't hit as many batters as Randy Johnson. How about that stat? Winning percentage, Johnson wins that, 665, and I told you he would have fewer losses than Nolan Ryan. So the dilemma is this: who's a greater pitcher, and who would you take? If you're going to ask me the question, Randy Johnson, a lefty, is dominant. He has a perfect game on his record, but he only has 2 no-hitters. Nolan Ryan did not have a perfect game, but he has 7 no-hitters and like 10 or 11 or 12 one-hitters. He ended up with more strikeouts. Who had a faster fastball? I mean, as far as speed, both 100 miles an hour. Who threw harder? We don't know on that one. Shutouts, Ryan wins that. I'm having a dilemma as far as who's a greater pitcher and who would I take. Who do I want? Do I want a guy who can pitch 7 no-hitters? Or do I want a guy who pitches a perfect game and has a better winning percentage? What's the other stat that we can look at? I told you that Nolan Ryan issued more walks, so he threw more pitches. But Randy Johnson hit more batters than Nolan Ryan, even though Nolan Ryan pitched more games. So I did that. As far as the hits, Randy Johnson would have, if he pitched the same number of games as Ryan, he would have given up more hits. How about home runs? Okay, here's a stat. This is interesting. How many home runs did Nolan Ryan give up? He gave up 321 home runs. How many did Randy Johnson give up? 411. More home runs, yet he pitched less games. How about that? Balks? You know what a balk is, right? Got a man on base, and before you deliver the pitch, you move around on the mound. That's a balk. How many balks did Nolan Ryan have? 33. How many did Randy Johnson have? Let's see. I'll get it for you. Nolan Ryan had 33 balks in his career. Randy Johnson had 33 balks in his career. Nolan Ryan has pitched 170 more games than Randy Johnson, and yet they tie in how many balks they gave up, indicating that Nolan Ryan was better holding men on base than Randy Johnson. All right, how about this one? Earned runs. How many earned runs did Nolan Ryan give up? I've got it here. Nolan Ryan gave up 1,911 runs. How about Randy Johnson? 1,703. That's a difference of 200. Less than Ryan. But we got to add the 170 more games. How many more runs would Randy Johnson have given up if he pitched 170 more games? Maybe, well, his ERA career is 3.2, right? So you got to get 3 runs per start, right? 170 times 3, 510. Randy Johnson would have given up more earned runs than Nolan Ryan if they pitched the same number of games. Fair? The only other thing I could say here is, how about this stat? Nolan Ryan pitched until he was 46, started at 19 and went to age 46. Randy Johnson started at 24 and pitched till he's 45. So Johnson, 22 years. If he started at 24, if he starts at 19 or 20, he may have had an advantage because you're strong, right? At 19, 20, 21. So he may have had the advantage there. I think I've exhausted all their stats. I've looked at it, and I'm still debating who's greater, Nolan Ryan or Randy Johnson. We looked at everything. Who do you think, and who do you take? I'm going to take Nolan Ryan. Why? 7 no-hitters, that does it. 7 of them. Randy Johnson had a chance. He had the perfect game, but he only had 2 no-hitters. If he had had like 4 no-hitters, and then if you add another 170 games, he may have gotten a 5th or a 6th. But if you add 170 more games, I don't know if he could get 5 more no-hitters. That does it for me. But who's greater? They're pretty evenly matched. Johnson would have had more wins, strikeouts, and innings, and the better winning percentage. But Johnson gave up more runs and more home runs. And it looks like more walks, and he hit more batters. I don't know on that one. All I can say is they're both outstanding pitchers. They're in the Hall of Fame. I'm taking Nolan Ryan. As far as the question being answered, who is greater? I'd say Nolan Ryan by that much and Randy Johnson that close. But what does it for Ryan is the 7 no-hitters. You agree or disagree? All right, thanks for watching here. We'll get into some more pitching matchups next video, and I'm out.